If your favorite romances are dark, addictive, and just a little bit dangerous, let me recommend The Dare by New York Times bestselling author Harley LaRue.
This viral novella serves as the perfect introduction to Harley's bestselling Losers universe. Jessica was the untouchable prom queen. Manson was the outcast she made sure everyone feared. Years later, one Halloween party, one game of Drink or Dare, and one impossible challenge forced them into a night that changes everything they thought they knew about each other.
If you love bully romances, enemies to lover tension, morally complicated characters, queer representation, and stories that aren't afraid to explore the darker side of desire and devotion, this one's for you.
This gorgeous new edition also includes a full gold foil cover and an exclusive bonus novella, Ghosted, available in print for the very first time. Fun fact, The Dare became infamous after Amazon temporarily banned it for being too sexy, helping cement Harley LaRue as one of dark romance's most talked about voices.
The Dare by Harley LaRue, available now wherever books are sold.
People keep asking what's the next book they need to read, and the answer is very simple. It's Storm of Secrets and Sorrow by Melissa K. Rorick.
In a world created for the descendants of gods, where the Fae are born to serve, a woman bound to the air of death fights fate and desire. Storm of Secrets and Sorrow is book 2 of the best-selling BookTok sensation, a contemporary dark romantasy legacy series for fans of Sarah J. Maas, Kaylee Smith, and Rebecca Yarros.
The second I knew that this book had me was when I realized it had gods, dragons, shifters, vampires, and witches. It has it all for you.
It even has my favorite tropes like morally gray characters, meddling gods, forced proximity, touch her or him and die, one bed, one horse, he falls first, enemies with benefits, like you can't go wrong.
And everyone knows that it is fantastic because the first book was independently published back in 2023, and the series was a #1 Amazon bestseller with nearly 40,000 Goodread reviews and 16,000 Amazon reviews as of 2025. So you know it's grown even more.
And when it was published traditionally, it was an instant New York Times bestseller.
Make sure you get your copy today of Storms of Secrets and Sorrow. It has an incredible deluxe special edition with stenciled edges, a beautiful foil-stamped hardcover, exclusive design with illustrated end papers, and full-color character art.
You can find Storm of Secrets and Sorrow by Melissa K. Rorick wherever books are sold in print and in ebook.
I recently discovered 11 Reader because a fun fact about me that a lot of people don't know is that I have a reading disability. I have always struggled with reading and concentration, and when it comes to things like PDFs or things that I really need to focus on, 11 Reader has really come in handy.
The fact that I can upload my own content, I have so many business memos I have to read every day.
And then it reads it to you, and you get to choose the voice that reads it to you. You get to have a British accent reading those documents to you.
And I just retain so much more.
I really love the voices. Having a British accent whisper sweet nothings about legal documents to me keeps me going.
Start free with 10 hours of your own content per month. And that's essentially a 400-page book turned into audio for free.
Upgrade to Ultra for $11 a month and unlock unlimited uploads plus 20 hours of premium audiobooks every month. No credits, no commitments. It's really the ultimate listening app when you can't get enough. Being able to retain information is really hard for me when I'm reading certain difficult documents. And I really can't emphasize enough to you guys how much 11 Reader has helped me review so many things for the podcast.
Whether you're writing your own book, you have a lot of documents to go through, or you want to listen to audiobooks, choose 11 Reader and use promo code podcast to get your first 2 months for only $1.
Welcome to Academia Unlocked, a special series from BookTok for BookTok, where we take one classic work and explore it through 3 episodes, moving from understanding the text to deep analysis and finally cultural interpretation. This is Jack.
And I'm Amy, and between us, we have over 13 years of academic literary training, including bachelor's degrees in creative writing as well as master's degrees. We built this series to bring the depth we learned in our training into a space that feels like a conversation conversation anyone can participate in.
Normally, each book gets 3 episodes. Because we're not doing a traditional book, we are only doing 2. We start with literary literacy, reading the work the way you would in high school AP class, close and careful, and then episode 2 is our advanced analysis where we shift into a college-level seminar lens.
This is episode 2 of Virginia Woolf's A Room of One's Own.
Last episode, we talked about the argument in Virginia Woolf's A Room of One's Own. Money, and a literal room, is what any one person needs. The Beadle, Jude Shakespeare, that's the character that she came up with, is buried at the crossroads. If you haven't listened to last week's episode, go back because this episode assumes you know exactly what we're talking about. I should say Judith and you'd be like, right, the fictional Shakespeare's younger sister, yay, type of thing.
Yeah, for us, it's been several weeks since we recorded episode 1, so hopefully we remember too.
We might sound confused, and that's because we are.
Now, today we're not touring a building. We're doing an inspection of the building, if we're going to keep this metaphor of a room. In our seminar episode, we stop asking what Woolf said, and we start asking whether she's right, what she left out, and who's been arguing with her for the last 100 years.
Spoilers, it's men. So here's the question. It's not. I know.
It's not just men.
It's not just men. But here's the question we are going to ask ourselves in this episode. Woolf built the room. So who's still locked outside it? And does the essay survive its own critics?
So I'm going to start by reading a very long quote. Unfortunately, we do have long quotes because Virginia Woolf is very wordy. It was the style of the time. And I think as much as I tried to trim these quotes, I felt like
you can't.
I couldn't. I just couldn't.
It's just too good.
It's just too good. So if you have not read the essay, the lecture, it starts with a very curious story about a fish. So I will attempt to do it justice. I hope you can understand me and understand Virginia. So she starts with, quote, sitting on the banks of a river a week or 2 ago in fine October weather, lost in thought. That color I have spoken of, women and fiction, the need of coming to some conclusion on a subject that raises all sorts of prejudices and passions, bowed my head to the ground. There one might have sat, the clock round, lost in thought. Thought, to call it a prouder name than it deserved, had let its line down into the stream. It swayed minute after minute hither and thither among the reflections in the weeds, letting the water lift it and sink it until, you know, the little tug, the sudden conglomeration of an idea at the end of one's line, and then the cautious hauling of it in, and the careful laying of it out. Alas, laid on the grass, how small, how insignificant this thought of mine looked. But however small it was, it had nevertheless the mysterious property of its kind. Put back into the mind, it became at once very exciting and important, and as it darted and sank and flashed hither and thither, set up such a wash and tumult of ideas that it was impossible to sit still. It was thus I found myself walking with extreme rapidity across a grass plot. Instantly, a man's figure rose to intercept me, nor did I at first understand that the gesticulations of a curious-looking object in a cutaway coat and evening shirt were aimed at me. His face expressed horror and indignation. Instinct, rather than reason, came to my help. He was a beetle. I was a woman. There was the turf. There was the path. Only the fellows and scholars are allowed here. The gravel is the place for me. Such thoughts were the work of a moment. As I regained the path, the arms of the beetle sank. His face assumed its usual repose, and though turf is better walking than gravel, no very great harm was done. Only charge I could bring against the fellows and scholars of whatever the college might happen to be was that in protection of their turf, which had been rolled for 300 years in succession, they had sent my little fish into hiding.
Whew. So on the surface, it's like, oh my God, that's a cute metaphor. An idea is like a little fish on a line. But I want to make the big seminar move right now on top of this episode, which is stop reading what Woolf says and start reading how she says it.
Because the how she's doing it is actually doing the majority of the work here. If we pay attention to what is actually happening in the passage I just read, Virginia Woolf, or her character, Mary Benton, Mary Carmichael, whoever she happens to be, she is thinking. And she's thinking and she's like finally found the thought that's like, oh, this is actually a good thought. This might get me somewhere. And then a man in a uniform is like, you're not allowed to walk on the grass. It distracts her enough from her thinking that the thought dies. Now, it's not just a metaphor for the essay's argument. This is the essay's argument, but it's being performed.
Once you see it, you can't unsee it because the entire essay proceeds by, and in spite of, interruption. The beetle, the man, right? But the beetle, the locked library, the lunch bell, her train of thought keeps getting cut and the prose keep getting cut with it. Woolf is making you experience the fragmentation she's describing. A woman's argument, like a woman's day, doesn't get to run uninterrupted. It's almost like she needs a room.
Shocking. Shocking that she needs a space to be uninterrupted. Which brings us back to something we flagged in last week's episode and that we promised we would return to, and that is the narrator. Woolf, as we discussed, refuses to say, I, Virginia Woolf, believe this. Instead, she hands the essay to a fictional narrator, a stand-in for her. Quote, call me Mary Benton, Mary Seton, Mary Carmichael, or by any name you please. Question we have to ask at a deeper analysis level is why?
We will give you 3 readings, and I genuinely think all 3 of them can be true at once, but that's just literature for you, baby, that so many things can be happening at one time. And reading 1 is that it's armor. She's a woman making an economic argument to a room in 1928. Deniability is a form of survival. Reading 2, it's method. The whole essay argues that fiction can carry truths the archive can't. That's literally the Judith Shakespeare logic. So, of course, she delivers her truth through a fictional mouth. She's practicing what she preaches.
And finally, a third reading, and maybe my favorite, is that it's parody. If you think about the genre she's writing inside of, this idea of a lecture, an essay, really the form that has mostly been written by men, those men would normally use I because they are the authority. They are pronouncing truth from the front of the room, from the podium. That's the setting of the traditional classroom, which is where she is right now giving this lecture. But it's not a traditional classroom that she's in. Actually, she's talking to a group of women at a college who are kind of new additions to the institution. Women are just gaining access to education in a college setting. And she's taken the role of lecturer where one would normally expect a man to be the lecturer at the front of the room. Now, because of this, because of all this newness, almost like this imposter syndrome, Woolf conspicuously refuses to use I. She is not going to play the same role as the men who might have taken on her role if they had been asked to talk about men in fiction. Throughout the course of her lecture, Woolf wanders, she gets interrupted, and she even admits that she might be lying. By refusing the authoritative voice, the question gets asked, whose voice gets to sound like authority in the first place? And what does authority cost everybody else around them?
So keep that in your back pocket for this whole entire episode, that the form is the argument. Every critique we look at today is, in some way, someone taking Woolf's own method and turning it back on her.
It's like when we discussed House on Mango Street. It's the same concept of Sandra Cisneros was like, well, but I didn't grow up in a space where there was a whole, house.
Yeah.
So I'm going to write what I know, which is an apartment building. And so form is so important for understanding what's happening right now.
Mm-hmm. So we're going to move into a Marxist reading, and that's about following the money and what it gets you. In chapter 2 of the essay, we learn a fundamental truth about why Virginia Woolf got to be who she was. Quote, my Aunt Mary Benton, I must tell you, died by a fall from her horse when she was riding out to take the air in Bombay. The news of my legacy reached me one night about the same time that the act was passed that gave votes to women. A solicitor's letter fell into the post box, and when I opened it, I found that she left me £500 a year forever. Of the two, the vote and the money I own seem infinitely more important. That line blew me away each time, and then saying it again, I'm always like, oof, money wins. I hate that.
But it's true.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, even in today's world with inflation, We all want more money for a reason. We want the freedom to do whatever we want to do, and that requires money. Now, when we look at this essay from a Marxist lens, I want to start with a claim that might feel surprising. A room of one's own might be the most materialistic text in the entire feminist canon. What do I mean? It might be the most focused on you need money. You need money to do the important work. Because at the end of the day, and as I just kind of briefly mentioned, intellectual freedom depends on material things, right? And that's not just in art. It's in research. It's in education. Like, anything that requires creativity of mind, that requires exploration, that requires drilling down into things, requires money and requires that stability that money brings. Art is not produced by geniuses who don't have money.
And if it is, look at Van Gogh. It's not until after they die that it becomes big. And it's normally always a man.
Yeah. And to be recognized for their genius in the moment, like Virginia Woolf, it's produced by economic conditions. Like, think of the people who get notoriety nowadays for their intelligence. They're professors. They're getting paid to just think and create knowledge. Genius, according to Woolf and her argument, is a class outcome, is an outcome of socioeconomic status. Now, from chapter 6, much later in the essay, I want to read this quote. Intellectual freedom depends upon material things. Poetry depends upon intellectual freedom. And women have always been poor, not for 200 years merely, but from the beginning of time. Women have had less intellectual freedom than the sons of Athenian slaves. Women then have not had a dog's chance of writing poetry. That is why I have laid so much stress on money and a room of one's own.
This is why she can love Shakespeare and still say that Judith never had a chance, that this hypothetical person can have the same gift but different material conditions, meaning a different ending for them entirely.
That's exactly right, because it doesn't matter how evenly distributed talent might be, opportunity is not. And that's true of our world today.
Yeah.
Not everybody who is brilliant gets the opportunity. It's those with opportunity that get to be brilliant. Look at Nepo babies.
They're all over.
And I tangentially recently read an interview with Gracie Abrams. Sorry.
I was just thinking about her.
Yeah, because she was like, yeah, I'm a Nepo baby. And what that comes with is time and money to explore and to become good at the things you want to do.
Mm-hmm.
And she's the first person I know to have really embraced the fact that yeah, I'm a Nepo baby. I benefited. I get it. But that's what makes me good.
Yeah.
It's fair. It's fair. So now let's turn the materialist lens on Virginia Woolf herself. And I think we have to do a second read to kind of get to a point where we can think about this. And one of the most important questions we might ask when looking at it through this lens is, where does the famous 500 pounds a year come from?
And that's her aunt who fell off a horse in Bombay.
Where is Bombay? Bombay is in India. Woolf names the city Bombay and moves on. It's a one-sentence comment because she's an English woman. She is in England. England is the empire that has been controlling India. It's 1928, and we have to sit with the fact that, yes, this English woman's money came from imperialistic estates in India. The money that is paying for Virginia Woolf's room is colonial money. Let's be real, it's dirty money. And the essay doesn't really explore that fact because it was normal back then. It is not normal for us now. You also have to think about the fact that there's money everywhere in this discussion, but declines to follow what the money hides. So Virginia, in her essay or in her lectures, talking about the college kitchens, the endowments to fund professors, the law of married property. So why does she talk about money in all these ways, but fail to acknowledge the colonial aspect of the source of her money?
And I don't think we have to resolve it to see what it exposes, which is the second limit, class. In general, in literature, guys, you can ask questions and that's the answer, is you just asking a question. So if we walk away from it, that's just how you do it. Anyway, one of the limits is class. Look at who Woolf is talking to, students in Cambridge. In her other writing, she names her audience outright the daughters of educated men, which means the daughters of privileged men. That's a real constituency with a real grievance. But it's not everyone. It's far from everyone. Like, she's talking to a very privileged group of women.
And yes, those women are second class compared to their husbands and brothers and fathers, but there are people lower in class in them who are not even recognized. So let's look at the Furnham dinner from last week that we talked about, where it was like gravy soup and prunes, and Virginia was like, I shouldn't comment on how terrible this dinner is because polite society doesn't talk about bad dinners, but it was bad. Someone cooked that dinner. Someone cleared the table. There's a charwoman or servant standing on the outside of the room, on the edge of this essay, and she never gets presented. She never gets to come into the room. She never even gets a sentence. So really, the hard question we have to ask Woolf as this lecturer, does her argument follow or scale down the class ladder, or does the room of one's own require a servant to clean it? Like, you get your money, you get your room. Do you also need a servant? Do you also need to keep opportunity from other people so that you can have opportunity?
Yep. And that's a question that we're going to want you to hold on to, because we're going to come back to it when we get to responses of critics like Alice Walker. Yes, the author of The Color Purple. And she's going to answer it with a woman who didn't legally own herself, let alone a room. We promise this is important. Capitalism, but make it brief. I am trying to hit 10,000 steps a day and look cute and not have my back absolutely destroy me. And honestly, there's only one solution to this.
And that solution is Vionic shoes. I wear them every day to work so that I can walk on my walk pad looking professional, but the shoes also not look frumpy.
I mean, at this point, which Vionics do we not have? I am obsessed with my Walk Slim slide sneakers. I can walk forever in them. And then if I'm like, you know what? I'm not vibing a sneaker. Boom. I can hop over to my Amelita Mary Jane flats, and suddenly I'm like this timeless, cool girl fashion icon.
I get so many compliments on my City Walk sneakers from all age groups, and genuinely, they are so cute, and they're made with real suede.
The reason why we are so obsessed with our Vionics is because of Vionics' exclusive biomotion technology, and that's really what sets them apart. They began by revolutionizing medical orthotics. Today, they continue to use that science to engineer shoes that leave you feeling energized and confident all day.
They even offer a 30-day guarantee. Wear them, love them, or return them for a full refund within 30 days. I guarantee you'll know instantly that these are the shoes for you.
Use code BookTok, that's BookTok, BookTalk, at checkout for 15% off your entire order at VionicShoes.com when you log into your account. It's a one-time use only.
Vionic shoes, wearable well-being for your feet. So moving away from the Marxist lens, we're going to go kind of into feminist lens territory. There's a passage in the essay where Woolf quotes from Charlotte Bronte's Jane Eyre. Jack and I love Jane Eyre. And Woolf pulls out a very famous passage about Jane Eyre's feelings on how her life is contained, and it's viewed as a very feminist passage. So again, I apologize. It's long. I took bits and pieces. Bear with me. Quote, I longed for a power of vision which might overpass that limit, which might reach the busy world, towns, regions full of life I had heard of but never seen. That then I desired more of practical experience than I possessed, more of intercourse with my kind, of acquaintance with variety of character than was here within my reach. Who blames me? Many, no doubt, and I shall be called discontented. I could not help it. The restlessness was in my nature. It agitated me to pain sometimes. It is vain to say human beings ought to be satisfied with tranquility. They must have action, and they will make it if they cannot find it. Millions are condemned to a stiller doom than mine, and millions are in silent revolt against their lot. Nobody knows how many rebellions ferment in the masses of life which people earth. Women are supposed to be very calm generally. But women feel just as men feel. They need exercise for their faculties and a field for their efforts as much as their brothers do. They suffer from too rigid a restraint, too absolute a stagnation, precisely as men would suffer. And it is narrow-minded in their more privileged fellow creatures to say that they ought to confine themselves to making puddings and knitting stockings, to playing on the piano and embroidering bags. It is thoughtless to condemn them or laugh at them if they seek to do more or learn more than custom has pronounced necessary for their sex. Woolf follows up with this by saying, quote, that woman, Bronte, who wrote those pages had more genius in her than Jane Austen. But if one reads them over and marks that jerk in them, that indignation, one sees that she will never get her genius expressed whole and entire. Her books will be deformed and twisted. She will write in a rage where she could write calmly. She will write foolishly where she should write wisely. She will write of herself where she should write of her characters. She is at war with her lot. How could she help but die young, cramped, and thwarted?
Oh, I know. Let's just be very clear about what just happened, because I think first-time readers miss how shocking this is, or maybe they're caught on other shocking parts. Like I was like, how dare you say that about Jane Austen?
Yeah.
Virginia Woolf, feminist icon, face of 1,000 tote bags, just took one of the most beloved feminist passages in the English novel Jane Eyre on the rooftop, demanding a life, and called it a flaw, a deformity. She says Charlotte Bronte's anger broke her book.
And yes, this is literary criticism. This is Virginia Woolf doing what we do. It's not a personal attack, maybe.
I don't know. Sometimes I read it and I was like, is she good?
Yeah. And we have to go back to the basics of who Virginia Woolf is. Her aesthetic standard, or what her preferred style is when it comes to writing, is what she calls incandescence. That the great mind burns so hot that all grievance, all grudge, all anger burns up, and nothing gets left behind but the purity of the work. The anger might fuel the work, but the anger is not present in the work. For example, in Woolf's description, or in her mind or assessment, Shakespeare is incandescent. Jane Austen is incandescent because they don't let their anger towards their circumstances come through the page. Charlotte Bronte, on the other hand, is not incandescent. Her anger survives and warps the writing of the page.
Funny, I'm so protective of Austen that I'm like, leave her alone. Her anger is there. And it's like, I think this is the comparison when people kind of like compare romance to fantasy or something. And you're like, that's not apples and oranges. However, during this time, you didn't have as many female authors as you do today. So you have to call out the greats. We have so many greats living and past that we can have like a nuanced take on it, I think. Now I'm just trying to give like Woolf a slight break on going too hard on these women.
It was also 100 years ago.
Yeah. Now, here's where things start to get very interesting, because in 1977, Elaine Showalter, in A Literature of Their Own, comes for this exact standard. And her critique, roughly, is that incandescence is an invasion. Woolf is asking women to write as if the injury never happened, to transcend an anger they have every right to feel. Showalter reads the serenity Woolf prizes as a flight from anger and honesty, a flight from female experience itself. Like she gives, keep calm and carry on, which is a really World War II reference, but this wasn't too long before World War II. So that mentality didn't come from nowhere.
Right, exactly. Another way to describe Showalter's point in the bluntest terms possible is that to write calmly, dear, is basically Virginia Woolf just tone policing with a Bloomsbury accent.
Yeah. And I want to be fair to Woolf too here, because there is a reading of her that survives this. She's not saying the anger is unjustified. Chapter 2 is her being furious in the British Museum. She's saying anger is expensive. It bends the prose towards the injury and away from the object. Her claim is about craft under pressure, not about whether the pressure is real. Whether you buy that or not is up to you. Like, to me, it's very much similar to this concept of peaceful protest versus fighting.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like,
what does peaceful protest achieve?
Yeah. Or, I mean, and you can say, what does anger achieve, right? Like, are men going to take you seriously if you're not doing it in the most composed way? Can the average reader handle an angry woman? And I think even today, the answer is no. That's why you have the trope of an angry Black woman, which is so unbelievably problematic.
Right. And because an emotional woman is hysterical.
Yeah.
An equally emotional man is passionate.
Yeah.
It's like, just fucked up.
Yeah. This is one of those moments where you have to like give some, understanding of the time. But just because you give understanding of the time doesn't mean that you don't say like, hey, maybe that wasn't right. Maybe there is a way we can evolve from this.
Yeah. I did a little fun thought exercise as I was writing these notes. And that was, okay, if Woolf was alive today, what would she say about a book like A Court of Silver Flames? Because A Court of Silver Flames is Nesta Archeron and like hundreds of pages of female rage. Rage at family, rage at war, rage at your own body. And again, yes, we give grace for the time period, as Jack was saying. But in our day and age, while yes, society still poo-poos female rage, we have learned to monetize it in a lot of ways.
And yet, even then, people really struggle with Silver Flames too. There's a lot of people who do not like that book. And, we talk about it in other seasons about how people can't handle a female antihero. So would Woolf call Silver Flames deformed? And if she would, is that a problem for Woolf? Or a problem for Silver Flames, and arguably a problem for many readers that we know have issues with Silver Flames?
I mean, what it says to me is that we might look at 1928 and be like, oh my God, it was so backward. We're not that far from it. If people can't accept and embrace that female rage is legitimate and genuine and should be allowed to exist, we're no different.
Yeah, it's Taylor Swift's Mad Woman.
Yeah.
Yep.
So, yeah, I mean, we could look at this so many different ways. We could say we've advanced because someone like Sarah J. Maas did do it. Doesn't matter if people are pissed off. She still made money off of it. Or you can say nothing's changed.
People still don't like it.
People still don't like it. Let's take a sip.
Yeah. Oh, go ahead. Take a sip. My water's far away and I'm too lazy to get it. Everyone at home, take a sip for me, please. Everyone's double timing their sip.
Grab a snack, stretch your legs, and we'll be right back.
There will be absolutely no gatekeeping here. We need to tell you about Rebel, the one place where you can get some incredible brand names for up to 70% off.
The thing about Rebel is you don't have to choose between the brand you want versus the price you want. You get both. It isn't a knockoff. It's a real product just priced the way it actually should be.
Rebel offers so many incredible products that I have spent the last, I'd say, 20 minutes just scrolling, knowing that I can shop from brands like Ninja, KitchenAid, and even Drybar. My hair is going to look good.
The most important thing is it's not a static sale. There are new finds dropping constantly. And once the inventory's out, it's out.
You got to get on it, people.
Your next favorite find is waiting at FromRebel.com. That's FromRebel.com.
Top brands in home, baby, and outdoor. Up to 70% off. Go check it out before it's gone.
It's basically August, which means it's basically fall. And I am basically thinking about my entire autumn wardrobe.
But it's not going to be a basic wardrobe.
No. It's going to have absolute amazing classic staples from Quince that's going to have ultra soft organic cotton, premium cashmere sweaters. It's a whole vision I have for myself.
The best thing about Quince is you can get those timeless staples at 50 to 80% less than similar brands.
Quince also has, get ready for this, premium stretch denim starting at just $50. I mean, I'm telling you guys, like, it's the perfect fit. It has structure to it, and it also has exactly what you would expect from a luxury designer brand, but it's only $50.
And they're so affordable because they work directly with ethical factories and cut out middlemen. So basically, you're paying for quality, not brand markup.
And it's not just apparel. Quince also brings that same everyday elevation to everything they offer, from hotel quality bedding and bath to kitchen staples and thoughtfully designed furniture.
Upgrade your everyday. Download the Quince app for app-exclusive offers or go to quince.com/booktalk.
Get free shipping on your order and 365-day returns. Now available in Canada and the UK too.
That's QUINCE.com/booktalk. BOOKTALK.
Okay, so now let's get into maybe a level of analysis that you possibly wouldn't have expected, and that is queerness under censorship. In Chapter 5, Woolf begins to talk about the fictitious novelist Mary Carmichael, who just published a book that month, and how her writing continues on the work of the women before her. And she remarks on the contents of this fictitious novel. Quote, "Are there no men present? Do you promise me that behind the red curtain over there, the figure of Sir Charles Byron is not concealed? We are all women, you assure me. Then I may tell you that the very next words I read were these: Chloe liked Olivia. Do not start. Do not blush. Let us admit in the privacy of our own society that these things sometimes happen. Sometimes women do like women. Amy, I think you'd be shocked to know this.
My God, they do?
What would your fiance, Emma, say?
I will admit, anytime I see pictures of the 1900s of two women kissing, it catches my breath because I'm like,
Yeah.
they dared to create evidence that they were in love.
Mm-hmm.
So this is charming, right? Virginia Woolf is kind of, tongue-in-cheek, doing a little bit. Chloe liked Olivia, but don't be alarmed. Everybody stay calm. It's okay. We all know this is okay. But with more context, you can see how it means more. Because the name Sir Charles Byron, or here, what is his real name? Sir Chartres? I don't know what his name is. Some historical guy. It looks like Charles, but there's a T in it.
Yeah. So here's some context to all this. And this is one of the best pieces of literary history that we've gotten to do on the show, maybe. Sir Charles Byron was not a made-up comedic figure. He was the chief magistrate presiding over the obscenity trial of Radcliffe's Hall, The Well of Loneliness, a novel about a lesbian relationship. We got to read that one, Amy. And the trial was happening in real time, which was late 1928. Weeks after Woolf delivered these lectures, Woolf herself was prepared to appear in the book's defense. The court ordered the novel destroyed, unfortunately. So maybe we can't read it. I don't know.
I don't know if it's accessible. I have Google pulled up, and I think his name is Sir Chartres. Maybe that's how it's
Sir Charcuterie.
Anyway, he ruled that although the book was dignified and restrained, it presented an appeal to, quote, decent people to recognize lesbianism. So basically, no, it can't exist because it recognizes lesbianism, guys.
How dare they?
So when Woolf pauses and she asks if there's a Chartres Byron hiding behind the curtain, she's not just joking about stuffy attitudes about women liking women. She's joking about a real person who's going to talk about a real book, who will order that book burned for saying what she's about to say. So really, this is a very political statement she's making. At the same time, it's like us asking if Donald Trump is in the room and then making a disparaging joke about him. Woolf is literally naming her censor in absentia. So she's like, yeah, I know he would come down on me and order me to shut up if he was here, but he's not here.
Yeah. It's like, hey, we can all keep a secret, right? And layer on one more piece of 1928 lore. Orlando comes out the same year. Woolf's gender-shifting, century-hopping love letter to Vida Sackville West, who she was, by every serious account, in love with. Did you know before we got into this whole Academia Unlocked that she was a queer icon?
I did.
Okay.
I remember the Nicole Kidman biopic.
Oh, I never saw it.
I never saw it, but I remember reading a lot about it at the time, mostly about her prosthetic nose and how it was revolutionary.
So you can read the Chloe passage 3 ways at once: as code, because she can't say it plainly; as courage, because she says it anyway; or as a craft, smuggling the truth in through comedy, which, notice, is the Mary Benton move again. Fiction and play as the delivery system for what can be said straight. Pun not intended. The form is the argument. Again, it's all about that form.
And under all of this, there's a genuinely enormous literary claim that we shouldn't lose track of. Virginia Woolf is saying that until her imagined novelist, Mary Carmichael, women in fiction existed almost exclusively in relation to men. And this was one of the most powerful passages of her lecture to me. Women in fiction, up until that point, were lovers, wives, mothers, obstacles, because that's the only way men understand women. So therefore, Chloe liking Olivia, a woman writing about 2 women in a relationship that has nothing to do with a man, whether they're colleagues, whether they're friends, whether they're lovers, is unprecedented in literature up until the time of women writing.
Which is the Bechdel test, 60 years early. Now, you might have heard the Bechdel test. You might have been like, I have no idea what you're saying. And essentially, it, quote, is a measure of representation of women in film and other fiction. The test asks whether a work features at least 2 named women who have a conversation about something other than a man. The test is named after the American cartoonist Alison Bechdel, in whose 1985 comic strip, this is the name of the comic strip, guys, Dykes to Watch Out For, the test first appeared. Bechdel credited the idea to her friend Liz Wallace and the writing of Virginia Woolf. So 2 women talking to each other about something other than a man. How can that ever be possible?
And they have names. I know that the first time I learned this, I actually learned it from Nicole.
Oh, yeah.
And I almost want to say it maybe came up in her interview post season 1 with
Probably,
her.
yeah.
I think. I can't remember. Anyway, so this idea, 2 women talking to each other about anything other than a man. Woolf is asking, in this case, what becomes possible when women can talk about something other than a man?
Mm-hmm.
What stories can now exist that never existed before? And honestly, most of what we cover in this show is a result of that question. What can women do without men around?
I mean, talk about bowel movements. That's what women do. They talk about a Bechdel test. It's the amount of women that just talk about their tummy problems with their friends has nothing to do with a man.
Yep, that's right. All right. So I think our last segment before we wrap up today's conversation is the idea of an androgynous mind and some of the critics that have spoken about Virginia Woolf. Now, in the final chapter of her essay, Virginia Woolf stops to talk about a writer by the name of Samuel Taylor Coleridge and his conception or his concept of the quote-unquote androgynous mind. For those of you who don't know who Samuel Taylor Coleridge is, he was a poet and literary critic during the Romance era, aka 1700s, early 1800s. He was friends with William Wordsworth and the Romance era poets of that time. So this is the quote. Coleridge perhaps meant this when he said that a great mind is androgynous. It is when this fusion takes place that the mind is fully fertilized and uses all its faculties. Perhaps a mind that is purely masculine cannot create any more than a mind that is purely feminine, I thought. But it would be well to test what one meant by man womanly, or conversely, by woman manly. He meant perhaps that the androgynous mind is resonant and porous, that it transmits emotion without impediment, that it is naturally creative, incandescent, and undivided. It is fatal for anyone who writes to think of their sex. It is fatal to be a man or woman pure and simple. One must be a woman manly or a man womanly.
This is the twist that no one sees coming. Woolf spends 5 chapters building the most gendered analysis of literature ever written at this point about men's money and women's poverty, men's sentence, women's traditions, etc. And then in chapter 6, she says, actually, the great minds are androgynous. It is fatal to write as a man or a woman, pure and simple. Sex consciousness itself is an enemy of art.
Now, I don't know how you guys feel about that statement. Critics have been fighting about that statement ever since Virginia Woolf gave this lecture. So let's talk about a couple different ways it could be interpreted. Now, one way to read this is that it's about the culmination. The whole argument so far is about what material deprivation does to a mind and how once material conditions are met, once you have the money in the room, the mind is finally free. And what it does is it allows you to fuse the logical and rational with the emotional parts of your brain into one creative being that just makes art. Androgyny itself is not a retreat from feminism. It's the prize of feminism, if that makes sense.
Yep. But then a different way to read it, and this is Showalter again, closing the loop from earlier, that it's actually a retreat. After 5 chapters of naming the problem as sex, Woolf dissolves sex at exactly the moment she'd have to claim a female voice. On this reading, androgyny is the same move as write calmly. Transcendence offered as a way of anger, when the anger was the honest response. It's the same critique, but that's like the final, nail in the coffin, you could say, of that critique. This is one of those moments where I hear Woolf and I'm like, yeah, I get what you're saying. But then Showalter, I'm like, yeah, I get what you're saying.
Yeah, it does feel like a betrayal of what it means to be female, right? It does feel like she's been radical to get their attention and then withdraws from being radical at the conclusion to be palatable. And I get it.
Yeah, it's giving up a woman can do this on her own and stand up on her own, 2 legs. That we are capable of writing art and being taken seriously. And then it has to default into androgyny.
Right. Because we should be a little bit more like the men to allow us to be taken seriously. That's what she's saying.
But she's also trying to be more radical by saying men should be a little bit more feminine.
Yeah. It's also true.
So it's kind of like she's not going all the way saying, okay, guys, just give it all to the men. She is trying to make it a little bit more even, but I also totally understand what Showalter's saying.
Yeah, I do too. So let's add another critic to the pile, and that's Alice Walker herself, the brilliant, the magnificent author of The Color Purple.
Please go read the book and please go listen to our episodes about the book. It rocked us. It rocked us.
Yeah. Cue dramatic music and an ad.
Across the country, United Health Group is working with local partners to build healthier communities every day. That includes helping partners like the Good Acre provide 45,000 meals and lower A1C in the Twin Cities, and helping Hello Family doulas deliver 44% fewer underweight births in Spartanburg. Because building healthier communities starts by giving people access to the care and services they need to live healthier lives. Learn more at unitedhealthgroup.com/commitment.
When it's time to scale your business, it's time for Shopify. Get everything you need to grow the way you want. Like, all the way. Stack more sales with the best converting checkout on the planet. Track your cha-chings from every channel, right in one spot. And turn real-time reporting into big-time opportunities. Take your business to a whole new level. Switch to Shopify. Start your free trial today.
In 1974, Alice Walker writes basically her own essay and asks a question that reframes Virginia Woolf's original work. And that is okay, so what about the women who never got a chance, who never had the means, who never had the education, right? Her essay, which is called In Search of Our Mother's Gardens, that essay is a direct conversation with Woolf's essay and kind of addresses it almost line by line. And her character, Alice Walker's character in her essay, is Phyllis Wheatley, an enslaved poet, a woman with no money, no room, and no legal ownership of herself. It's more than just Judith Shakespeare, who was denied the theater and is buried at the crossroads. Wheatley is a slave. She is denied personhood. And yet, despite that, she made art anyway.
This is why intersectional feminism is so important. That's when you are able to think about all women's experience and accept that you are likely more privileged than many other women. When I say you're more likely, you know
The
what?
collective we.
Yeah, because no matter what, there's someone who has it worse.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And it's
If you're listening to this podcast, someone has it worse than you.
That hurt me. Yes, that's true. Walker's move isn't just, Woolf forgot someone. It's bigger than that. She expands the shelves that are empty. If you only count novels and poems, generations of Black women's creativity is empty. At that point, it's silent. But it wasn't silent, was it? It went into quilts. It went into gardens, into songs, into cooking. Walker's mother's garden is the room of her own. The artwork that survived when every sanction formed was barred from her, which, notice, mirrors Woolf's discussion of anonymous writers, or anon, who are often women. It goes one step farther from that because we just love Walker and she's always fantastic.
Yeah. And depending on your culture or your area of the world, the art that women engaged in of unprivileged backgrounds might look different, but that doesn't mean art didn't exist, right? Whatever activity was allowed for them, that's where they created their art. And that's what Alice Walker is trying to say.
Yeah, because not every woman had the opportunity to learn to read or write, but art is still art. Like a lot of the art that was created by American, like I'm thinking about slaves in America, by the women, the female slaves at the time, and the songs and the clothing and even the hairstyles. You see that today. I mean, it's a hot topic for me in the sense that I've gotten into arguments with many white women about this, but where it's like art, like hair, the art of braiding hair was so important to not just like health and being able to work, but also in many ways there was like forms of communication through the various braids. And that a lot of these hairstyles remain today that then white women, Kardashians will mimic. And it's like, that's why you can't be braiding your hair this way, guys. Like there's more to it than, well, it's more what's bad for your hair anyway. It's made for hair, a certain type of hair texture. Anyway, but that's art. That's what I'm trying to say is that was art. And if anything, it's more passionate art because it was art that was based on literal survival.
So that is our analysis.
Yeah.
There's so much more that we could go into, but I think we tried to highlight, like, if you walk away with anything, like, here are some really important things that this essay accomplishes, or questions that it asks, or that we should be asking as we read it. So finally, before we wrap up, I have to ask the last question, which is, how does this essay, A Room of One's Own, hold up? Okay, yeah, it's a slogan you might have heard before. It might be a meme. It's probably a bookstore's name somewhere. Might even be a hashtag in the app of social media, whichever one you use. But if we try to reframe A Room of One's Own in 2026, I think we might say the question is, what does it cost to write romantasy or celebrate feminine joy? And is it the same? Is it a room? Is it money? Or is it more than that? On paper, if you think about it, the room that Virginia Woolf is talking about got cheaper. Like, yeah, a laptop and Wi-Fi might be expensive, but it's not renting a whole ass room. And it's something that many more women have access to than probably in 1928, having a room of one's own. Self-publishing is a lot easier than getting past a beetle who says you can't walk on the grass. And there aren't any libraries that are preventing us from entering their doors to look at books. So access, not easier for all, but easier for many.
But then there's also, like it's not all sunshine and rainbows today, right? Like even though you have self-publishing, getting a foot into the actual room with traditional publishers is so exclusionary. I mean, the amount of underrepresented authors in the queer community, in the Black community, Asian community, Latin community, like there's just so non-straight white women, essentially. It's really hard for them. And even women are still not taken seriously. Like the romance genre is still not taken seriously, even though it is single-handedly holding up bookstores together, essentially. Go look more into that bookstores are able to sell all these other books because romance typically is one of their highest sellers there. Again, the currency of today looks different too. Relentless, never-ending output is what is rewarded now, right? Like we are demanding authors to be putting out books like crazy. I mean, SJM used to put out a book a year, sometimes twice in a year. And, she took a couple of years off and then, we're all mad. But then now here she is back putting out 3 books within a year and I'm spoiled again. Same thing with Taylor Swift. She had a very consistent every 2-year pattern. And then you also have Kindle Unlimited, right? Like you are paying for it, but you are also, it still is hard for authors because Kindle Unlimited only pays by the page, pennies by the page. And the algorithm demands that authors also market themselves daily. And worst of all, on camera. I can say that because we're a podcast and I'm mad that I had to put on makeup to record this.
It was the hardest transition for us and it continues to be a struggle, guys.
Not enough bronzer is making me look healthy with this lighting, unfortunately. But all of these authors and podcasters have to do this and market this for free before they even get paid, right?
Yeah.
In comparison, Woolf's 500 pounds a year bought her the right to be slow, to think without interruption. The creator economy is the new man interrupting the effort. The beetle is your phone. That is what's slowing us down. It could be literally slowing us down because that's like we're taking our phone out every 5 seconds to look at the apps. It could be the idea that you feel like you're being left behind because you're not as successful or as fast or as driven or as skinny or as pretty or as everything as everyone else online. That is also hurting women in a way that Woolf never had to experience.
Yeah. And there's the other thing, and Jack kind of alluded to it, which is like women are building the room. We've got BookTok, right? And that's a community of women, authors, readers, reviewers, podcasters who are trying to build the space where we might shine. And yet, we are still demeaned for what we like, for what we are interested in, for what we're trying to write and share with the world. Even if we're doing the thing that Woolf told us to do, society still finds a way to make us justify our existence.
And sometimes the call is coming in the house and it is women ourselves. I mean, Woolf says it, no one likes to hate women more than women, right? I mean, I'm paraphrasing, but that's essentially what she said. I said it very close to how she said it. And it's like we have to justify ourselves and build our own room fighting against society because as women got more rights, yay, happy about it. They also have more
competition.
Not just competition, but they have now a platform to stand and shit on other women.
Yeah. Well, because that's what society has taught us to do. We can't allow the women to be successful and take over the world. Let's turn them against each other.
Yeah. So let's return to a question, shall we? The question we asked ourselves this episode: Woolf built the room. Who's still locked outside of it? And does the essay survive its own critics?
So, as we discussed, there are a lot of women locked outside of Woolf's room. And there are a lot of women locked outside our room, too. Like even BookTok. What about the women around the world who don't have access to a phone or to the internet? There are always going to be others who are not in the room with us because they might not be slaves. We don't have slaves here, but there are people in other countries who are in poverty who don't have access the way that we have access. That is true, and that will continue to be true. But at the same time, one has to argue that the essay survives despite its flaws. And why is that? It's because if you look at the critics, like Showalter, like Walker, they all used Virginia Woolf's same form to create their argument,
Mhm.
right? They go farther than Virginia Woolf did. They followed the money, they find the missing women, but they use Virginia Woolf's tools to critique Virginia Woolf. And that's a compliment.
Yeah, I don't think that, I mean, maybe it's because I'm like real good at compartmentalizing, and don't worry, guys, I'm working on it with my therapist. But I think because in my mind, I'm able to say, yeah, there's so many things wrong with Woolf's essay. It's only talking to privileged white women. It's straight. I mean, well,
She's queer, technically.
even though she's queer, it's still directed towards straight white women.
It's crafted for a straight audience.
Yeah, there's a lot that you can sit here and say that's wrong. And I think it's important that we do. I mean, I think it's absolutely important that Walker and Showalter made their criticisms, and that doesn't mean you stop criticizing. It also doesn't mean that Woolf stops being a very meaningful piece of literature that still has very strong elements of truths. In my mind, I open it up to all women. You know what I mean? I understand that's not who she's talking to, but in my mind, she is. She's talking to all of us. So, you kind of have to read with a sense of, I think, responsibility. I mean, when you're reading these incredible think pieces from the past, it's your responsibility to have a modern mindset to it and hold it accountable and also adapt it to the modern world.
Yeah, I think that's very well said. I think in spirit, if Virginia Woolf was here, she'd be like, yeah, that's what you're supposed to do.
Yeah.
That's what I want you to do.
Yeah.
And that is, honestly, if you read any scholarly articles from any genre, any field of study, it's all people arguing with each other, but that's how knowledge is built, is someone says something, another person counters it, and then they just build atop each other until there's this new body of work or new train of thought or new discovery. And that's what Virginia Woolf has done, and that's what her critics have done.
Yeah. I mean, Woolf says herself, I want women to go and write, do the thing. Yay. She was able to criticize the women before her, Bronte, Austen, because of her privilege. I think she would be thrilled to know that women are more privileged now, and we get to hold her and we get to criticize her because we're doing the thing that she asked us to do, which is go and create. And, just keep that in mind. There's a difference of criticizing or saying that you don't like something creative versus destroying it, because at the end of the day, every single woman out there, whether you are someone who's trying to create art or not, you are still trying to create your own room. Whether it's dedicated to art, whether it's dedicated to other passions you might have. If there's any universal thing that we all have in common, is that we're just trying to build our room.
And everyone's invited.
Everyone's, mine has hours. There's office hours.
Yeah, I don't want to be manning it all the time.
No.
All right, shall we sign off?
Thank you for listening to this episode of Book Talk for Book Talk with Jack and Amy.
If you're enjoying the show, don't forget to rate, review, and subscribe on your favorite podcast platform. It really helps other readers find us. And of course, we'd love to hear what you thought of today's episode. Share your comments through our forum at booktalkforbooktalk.com. We might feature your feedback in a future mini episode or in a Patreon exclusive episode.
For merch and more ways to support the show, head to booktalkforbooktalk.com. You can follow us on TikTok, Instagram, and YouTube at the handle BookTalk for Book Talk. Bye. There will be absolutely no gatekeeping here. We need to tell you about Rebel, the one place where you can get some incredible brand names for up to 70% off.
The thing about Rebel is you don't have to choose between the brand you want versus the price you want. You get both. It isn't a knockoff. It's a real product just priced the way it actually should be.
Rebel offers so many incredible products that I have spent the last, I'd say, 20 minutes just scrolling, knowing that I can shop from brands like Ninja, KitchenAid, and even Drybar. My hair is going to look good.
The most important thing is it's not a static sale. There are new finds dropping constantly. And once the inventory's out, it's out.
You got to get on it, people.
Your next favorite find is waiting at FromRebel.com. That's FromRebel.com.
Top brands in home, baby, and outdoor, up to 70% off. Go check it out before it's gone.
It's basically August, which means it's basically fall. And I am basically thinking about my entire autumn wardrobe.
But it's not going to be a basic wardrobe.
No. It's going to have absolute amazing classic staples from Quince that's going to have ultra soft organic cotton, premium cashmere sweaters. It's a whole vision I have for myself.
The best thing about Quince is you can get those timeless staples at 50 to 80% less than similar brands.
Quince also has, get ready for this, premium stretch denim starting at just $50. I mean, I'm telling you guys, like, it's the perfect fit. It has structure to it, and it also has exactly what you would expect from a luxury designer brand, but it's only $50.
And they're so affordable because they work directly with ethical factories and cut out middlemen. So basically, you're paying for quality, not brand markup.
And it's not just apparel. Quince also brings that same everyday elevation to everything they offer, from hotel quality bedding and bath to kitchen staples and thoughtfully designed furniture.
Upgrade your everyday. Download the Quince app for app-exclusive offers or go to quince.com/booktalk.
Get free shipping on your order and 365-day returns. Now available in Canada and the UK too.
That's QUINCE.com/booktalk. BOOKTALK.
Nice to meet you. I'm Erin Sky Kelly.
I'm Carrie Blakeney.
And we host the podcast called Get the Hell Out of Debt.
As soon as you say the word debt, I think you just scared people away. We're not scary, everybody. We're fun.
We discuss relationships and life, but mostly money, in order to help you get the hell out of debt. You're going to hear from us, you're going to hear from experts, but most importantly, you're going to hear from you, people just like you who've gotten completely debt-free or become financially free simply by following a very easy system.
Right here where you found this podcast, look for us, Get the Hell Out of Debt.